Hi, everyone. My name is Orlando Ross. I work for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, and we're here to do a great event regarding the IRA and the Inflation Reduction Act and the Empower Plus program. I'm going to introduce one of our major contributors to energy policy within the Brooklyn area, and her name is Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke is a senior member of both the House, the Energy, and the Commerce Committee, and the House Committee on Homeland Security. On the Energy and the Commerce Committee, Representative Clarke is known by her colleagues as a leader on tech, innovation, and consumer protection and artificial intelligence. Last Congress, Congresswoman Clarke's leadership on cybersecurity and domestic terrorism issued help foster the federal government's on new national cybersecurity strategy and raised the bar on security grants for religious institutions and protections against terrorist attacks. Representative Clarke is serving as the first vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and she has been a member on the caucus since 2007. Representative Clarke is the leader in tech, media policy, space, as well as the co-chair of the Smart Cities Caucus and the co-chair of the Multicultural Media Caucus. Lastly, Congresswoman Clarke believes smart technology will make communities more sustainable, resilient, and livable, and works hard to ensure communities of color are not left behind while these technological advancements are made. Her partnership with the EPA's 5 billion Clean Bus program provides electric school buses in underserved communities, reducing CO2 emissions and improving the air quality and healthcare challenges for our children within these communities. So presenting to most and presenting to all, I'm introducing my boss, Congresswoman Clarke. The stage is yours.
Hey, Congresswoman Clarke, we think you might be muted.
You'd think I'd learn by now. Well, let me start over and just say greetings to everyone. I'm Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, and I proudly represent you in New York's 9th Congressional District, which is central and southwest Brooklyn. Let me thank my staff member, Orlando Ross, both for the kind introduction and for all of his work on behalf of the good people of the 9th District of New York. I'd also like to thank our speakers for taking the time to join me this evening, as well as each of you viewing at home tonight as we gather to talk about one of the largest investments in our nation's future in the past 30 years, the Inflation Reduction Act. From lowering prescription drug prices and energy costs, to delivering vital resources to combat the climate crisis, to creating millions of well-paying union jobs. This law is a once in a generation investment in our economy and our communities. I was proud to cast a decisive vote for the Inflation Reduction Act because I knew the immense benefits of the legislation, and that they would not only benefit communities across our nation, but families just across the street right here in Brooklyn. For communities of color, our seniors, pregnant and postpartum people, individuals, families living with low incomes, and everyone else who has long borne the brunt of too many hardships to list. This legislation represents the crucial solution they have so long and desperately awaited. While there are numerous life-changing provisions within the Inflation Reduction Act, tonight we're gathered to discuss exactly what the tools and resources within the Inflation Reduction Act can do for you, your business, your organizations, and your families. Over the next hour, you will learn from New York's leading experts on how the Inflation Reduction Act impacts you directly. We will discuss the critical Empower Plus program, which offers significant grants and rebates for energy efficient appliances. You will get an inside look at how the IRA operates at the strategic level, and you will hear about specific tools to aid you in navigating this law, such as a benefit savings calculator that will provide an estimate of your potential savings from the programs facilitated under the IRA. And for folks watching at home, we'll be following up with an informative one pager on the topics discussed tonight. So please stay on the lookout on my social media for the document. But before I leave, let me thank all of you for being here this evening to learn about this once in a generation investment in our nation and how you can get the most benefit from it. I can't say enough about what this legislation means in terms of transformation for not only the United States of America, but for our communities in particular. So please pay very close attention, and let me thank our speakers and the organizations that represent for joining us tonight. No one in New York understands this law more than these fine folks, and I am proud to stand at their side as they unpack some of the more technical parts of this transformative initiative. And with that, it is my privilege to turn things back over to Orlando from my team. Enjoy this evening's presentation. Orlando, I think you may be muted.
I'm so sorry. I should know by now. Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for all that you've done and everything you're doing in the space of energy and technology. We need you fighting for us in Congress. So now we're going to turn the page to a president, President Julie Tai, who was named president of the New York League of Conservation Voters and the New York League of Education Fund in 2018. Due in part to the leagues and her advancements and advocacy in 2019, the state legislature passed the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, and in 2022, the voters passed also $4.2 billion in Environmental Bond Act. Prior to joining the New York League of Conservation Voters, President Tai has served for more than a decade at the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, most recently as the Chief of Staff. With that being said, there's no other way to say it, but let's welcome the President, Julie Tai, to the stage. The floor is now yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Orlando, for that introduction. Good evening. Again, my name is Julie Tai. I'm president of the New York League of Conservation Voters and the New York League of Conservation Voters Education Fund. I want to thank especially Congresswoman Clarke for hosting this important educational opportunity. You have had an unwavering commitment to our environment and dedication to advancing sustainable policies, and we commend you for that. I'd also like to thank the other elected officials who are joining in this effort, including State Senator Kevin Parker, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker, and Councilwoman Sandy Nurse for all of your leadership and commitment to the environment and a clean energy economy. As we did last year with many of these dedicated public servants at SUNY Downstate, today we're here to talk about a monumental achievement, the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA. This landmark legislation marked a turning point in our nation's commitment to a healthier and greener future. This clean energy plan in the Inflation Reduction Act works by incentivizing people and businesses to make greener choices. Since we've last done one of these, the IRA has continued to be implemented, including New York becoming the first in the nation to administer a direct-to-consumer clean energy rebate program, which you'll hear more about tonight from Anthony Fiore from NYSERDA. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to log on tonight. I hope you find this useful. We can go to the next slide. So the Congresswoman said it, but the IRA is really a massive plan. We are going to focus today on the clean energy components of it, but it is the largest investment this country has ever made in clean energy. It covers buildings and public lands, clean manufacturing, healthy communities, transportation, agriculture. It is widely encompassing. We can go to the next slide. There are very significant programs in there that are helping the business community to incentivize things that we need to happen at the institutional level. So there was a 10-year extension of tax credits for renewable energy projects that are helping us to get offshore wind projects and solar going. We have a $27 billion greenhouse reduction fund that's going to help us catalyze private investment in clean energy. We have additional incentives for renewable energy projects that are going into low-income communities to make sure that there are advantages provided to communities that have been overburdened by pollution for too long. We can go to the next slide. In transportation, the most obvious thing that's available for you as a consumer is there's a tax credit on electric vehicles up to $7,500 that is available now. There's up to $4,000 for the first time made available for used vehicles, which we know is really important because a lot of people aren't buying brand new vehicles. So there's now a used vehicle tax credit, and there's funding available for getting the infrastructure that you need to charge your EV at home if you have that opportunity. There's also $2 billion in grants to convert a manufacturing facility so that they can make electric vehicles, because this law isn't only about getting deployment of all these green technologies, but also in manufacturing them here in the United States. Next slide. Eligibility for EVs is limited. There's limits on the value of the car for $55,000 for a passenger vehicle, or $80,000 for SUVs, vans, and pickup trucks, depending on the model. There are income limits if you're buying a new car of $150,000 for single filers, $225,000 for head of households, or $300,000 for joint filers. And where the car and its components were made, in particular the battery, will depend on how much of the tax credit you actually can get. And when you go to buy a car, they would be able to tell you that information. But it's really exciting that this is available for the first time for used vehicles having a sales value of no more than $25,000, and the car has to be at least 2 years old in order to get that credit. There is also a little loophole where if you lease an electric car, there is no limit on how much money you can make in order to get that tax credit. So that is a little loophole in the law right now. Next slide. So far, just in 2024, Americans have gotten $1 billion in tax credits from EVs, purchasing 150,000 vehicles, including 125,000 of them are for new vehicles and 25,000 are for used vehicles. So really it's showing that people are taking advantage of this. And we just learned today that 10% of electric vehicle sales in New York, of vehicle sales in New York are now EVs. So people are definitely taking advantage of this opportunity. Next slide. There is also funding available for medium and heavy duty vehicles. That includes a 30% tax credit for electric medium and heavy duty vehicles like school buses and garbage trucks. And in 2022, there's actually funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law that was made available to get 184 electric school buses in New York State. And then we got another round earlier this year from the 2023 dollars for another 200 electric buses in New York State. And on top of that, the state of New York has committed $100 million a year, basically for the next couple of years to couple with that. So we're going to be able to vastly increase the amount of electric school buses that are available in our communities, because too often school bus depots are located in disadvantaged communities or communities that have been overburdened by pollution. So that's something we've been really fighting for. Next slide. There is a Healthy Communities Fund, and there's a $3 billion environmental justice block grant that is made available. Our friends at the We Act for Environmental Justice, based in Harlem, is the technical assistance coordinator for New York. So they'll be able to help municipalities, nonprofits, and schools apply for federal grants. And we provided information on how you can get help from them on our website here. Next slide. Really, in New York, buildings are a big a big source of emissions. They're the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. So there is funding available that Anthony will go into much more detail on, but there's nearly $9 billion in home energy rebates that are being made available throughout the country to help people cut their energy costs at home. And we have $200 million is being made available for energy efficiency job training. Because again, the idea of this law isn't just to help get people greener energy, but also to help us get new jobs for the new clean energy economy. Next slide. Our friends at Rewiring America have put together a savings calculator that can give you an idea of how much money you might be able to get under the Inflation Reduction Act. So if you go to the next slide, you can go to their website and you can put in your zip code, how much money you make, what kind of filing you have, whether you own or you rent, and how big your household size is. And then you can click the button and it will tell you roughly how much money you could get if you took advantage of all of the programs available under the Inflation Reduction Act. So if you go to the next slide. So using that example that we just had of someone who lived in a household of 3 who owned a home and had income of $75,000 living in the Congresswoman's district, you would be able to get upfront savings of up to $14,000, including up to 100% of certain costs, tax credits of $5,200, and an estimated savings on your energy bill of about $1,100 a year, creating a total savings of incentives of $19,000. Now, that means you have to take advantage of everything that they offer, which may not be feasible for a lot of people, but it does give you an idea that there's a lot of funding out there to be taken advantage of to help you make your home more energy efficient, to move to an electric vehicle, to replace old appliances and get new, more efficient ones. So go to the next slide. There are 2 ways that they work. There are tax credits. So in order for you to be eligible, you have to actually owe money in taxes. And that is very common. That's what we're using for the electric cars. Like, it's a tax credit that you have to get off of your tax bill. But rebates are something that are given to taxpayers regardless of whether or not they owe any money in taxes. And they're usually provided at the point of sale. So this is what in New York right now, the state also offers a rebate that you can get, and that happens right at the dealership. So you don't have to apply for it on your taxes. It just comes off the hood. Next slide. So this is just a list of all of the tax credits that are available and how much they are. We do have links where you can get more information on all of them, but there's funding available for battery storage installation, for getting a geothermal system, for rooftop solar, for heat pumps for your air conditioning and heating, for a heat pump hot water heater, for weatherization, for electric vehicle chargers, for upgrading your electric panel. So those are all tax credits that have been available for folks to be able to acquire. Next slide. I'm going to let Anthony talk in much more detail about the Empire Plus program, because NYSERDA really has done yeoman's work in getting a program available for how the rebates are going to work to make it as easy as possible for people to take advantage. If you go to the next slide. This is just a list of the variety of types of rebates that are available. But again, NYSERDA is going to go over that in more detail. Next slide. So this is just giving you a depiction of all the potential things that you could get tax credits for in your home. So it's a hot water heater, it's a solar on your roof, it's geothermal, it's heat pumps, it's electric vehicles. It's really a way to upgrade a lot of different appliances and make them much more energy efficient than traditional models. Next slide. So we've had these 2 major laws that passed. So the bill, or bipartisan infrastructure law, was passed in 2021. And this gives you an idea of how many major projects have been supported since then in the state of New York. And then on the left side, the Inflation Reduction Act, which passed a year later, gives you an idea of all the major projects and the different types of projects, which, as you can see, there are many more types of projects under the Inflation Reduction Act that are related to energy and environment that are being spent in New York. So not as many in the IRA, but it was passed a year later, and it takes a little bit more time to get the money going. But New York is certainly benefiting from these 2 laws that Congress and the Biden-Harris administration advanced. Next slide. So to date in New York, there have been over $1 billion in funds provided for 170 projects. And that's super exciting. There's a variety of different programs that's been under. And this just gives you an idea of what those are. Across the United States, $33 billion and 3,300 projects have been awarded already. There's more money that's in progress that just hasn't actually been finalized yet. Next slide. So we have created a guide that goes into a little bit more detail that gives you information that's available on our website, and you can scan it from this QR code to download it, but to give you an idea about all the items that are available for you under the Inflation Reduction Act. And I think that's it. Thank you so much. Orlando, I think it's back to you.
I think we lost Orlando for a second, so just hang tight.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ty, for your presentation.
No problem. I tried to be efficient since I know Anthony is going to go into more detail on some of these things.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was an amazing event presentation. We thank you. We're going to move the stage now to Anthony Fiore. Mr. Anthony Fiore was appointed the Chief Program Officer for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, on January 25th, 2023. In his position, Mr. Fiore leads NYSERDA's cross-cutting programming strategy, leveraging programs and marketing assessments to optimizing sector-specific inventions and in economy-wide strategies to meet climate goals of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, and execute on the New York Climate Action Council scoping plan, the framework for how New York will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and achieve net zero emissions, increase renewable energy use, and ensure all communities equitably benefit in the clean energy transition. Mr. Fiore is major for NYSERDA. We're so honored to have him here. Is he on the stage? Yes, we have him on the stage. Mr. Fiore, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Orlando. And before diving in, I just want to thank Congresswoman Clarke. I want to thank you for your interest. I want to thank you for hosting this event and helping to spread the word. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak alongside so many distinguished guests. And most of all, I want to thank you for your support, commitment, and service. If we could go to the next slide, one more, please. Great. So I just want to start with some background. The Federal Inflation Reduction Act introduced two new federally funded programs totaling $8.8 billion, as Julie mentioned, and in part thanks to Congresswoman Clarke, to provide rebates to owners of single-family and multifamily residential buildings to make energy efficiency and electrification improvements. The legislation established population-based formula grant funding to be provided to state energy offices to develop and implement these programs under administrative rules established by the U.S. Department of Energy. So the two grants created by this legislation are the Home Efficiency Rebates, or HER, offering performance-based incentives for energy savings calculated through an energy model or measured via post-retrofit energy consumption data monitoring. And the formula grant amount to New York State under HER is $159 million through 2031. The second program is the Home Electrification and Appliance Rebates Program, or HERE. That offers prescriptive rebates for a predefined list of measures supporting energy efficiency and beneficial electrification for households below 150% of the area median income. The formula grant amount to New York State for the HERE program is $158.4 million, also through 2031. So the state's expected to receive a total of $317.4 million to deploy between now and September 30th of 2031. And both of these grants have funds that are dedicated to low-income households. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about the HER rebate amounts. Again, the home energy efficiency rebates. Again, they provide performance-based incentives based on the amount of energy savings predicted in a household. And you can see that in this chart here. So depending on your income, the housing units, and saving estimates, a household could receive up to $8,000 for energy efficiency work completed under the HER program. Next slide, please. I want to talk about the HERE program. Again, these are incentives for specific measures that are shown on this table. And again, depending on one's income, the customer can get the cost covered at up to 50% or 100% with a total maximum amount of $14,000 per household. In addition, the qualified installer or contractor can receive incentives of up to $500 for the installation of measures. If one qualifying measure is installed, they're eligible to receive $150. If two or more, they can receive $300. And if the home is located in a disadvantaged community, they can receive an additional $200 incentive. Next slide, please. So I want to go into some of our key program designs and implementation objectives. The collective $317 million is a sizable amount, and we expect that we'll be able to deploy these funds in 3 to 4 years. Now, when you take the $317 million and you divide it up by income tiers and building types, the specific amounts are not substantially large enough for us to develop completely new programs and offers. So we are leveraging our existing programs to the extent possible. First, to keep our administrative costs down and maximize the funds that are available for rebates. Secondly, to get these funds into the market as fast as possible. And thirdly, to allow us to enable braiding of other funding sources to meet customer needs and increase the rebate amounts. In addition, by implementing IRA funds through existing programs, such as the Empower Plus program, which was mentioned earlier, and already focuses on the same types of work offered through HERE and HER, we will minimize our confusion by avoiding having competing offers in the market. We aim to make the experience seamless for residents and contractors. For example, customers will access IRA funds by applying directly to Empower Plus. There's no separate application needed for IRA funding, and participants are not responsible to figure out which funding sources and programs they are eligible for. By submitting a simple application, that will automatically be determined. Our goal is to offer clear, concise information on eligible measures and maximum rebate amounts, and we'll leverage our existing project management systems to create customized offers for customers, unique to their income level and specific measures included in each project. Customers will be provided with decision quality recommendations to enable them to make informed choices. We will also ensure equitable distribution of funding across different building typologies, including single-family, small multi-unit residences, and larger multi-family buildings, by creating pathways for all market segments to participate, monitoring that participation by segment, and adjusting our targeting and outreach as needed to meet our equity objectives. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to just go over some key program design elements. First, for 5+ unit multifamily buildings, we are developing new offers to make IRA funds available using existing multifamily program strategies, including coordination with affordable housing partners through our direct injection model, and promoting pathways to decarbonization using existing multifamily programs like our low carbon pathways program. To support deployment of rebates for appliances, a new retail delivery channel is also being established. As I mentioned earlier, we expect to deploy these funds over the next 3 years and serve 50 to 60,000 households. Next slide, please. I am thrilled to report that New York is the first state in the nation to get this money into the market. DOE approved our partial scope application in April of this year, making an initial tranche of funding available to NYSERDA for program development and deployment. As of June, we've made the first phase of HERE rebates available for 1 to 4 unit low income buildings with household income levels less than 80% of the area median income. Since the HERE rebates became available, Empower Plus has seen approximately a 30% increase in customer applications. And we've already provided approximately $440,000 in rebates to approximately 200 income eligible households. Next slide, please. So just a closer look at our Empower Plus program. We launched that in July of 2023, combining 2 longstanding programs, Empower New York and Assisted Home Performance with Energy Star, which had been offering energy efficiency services to income eligible households for 20 years. This program is focused on efficiency first and energy affordability for low income New Yorkers, such that their homes are heat pump ready. Now that means that they meet minimum criteria for insulation and air infiltration levels. This will both ensure a more comfortable indoor environment and minimize the cost of the home's transition to electricity. Next slide, please. So how does one get started? The Empower Plus program is open to owners and renters of 1 to 4 family homes that are low to moderate income. Through Empower Plus, eligible households can receive no-cost home energy assessments, direct install improvements, which are energy efficiency improvements installed at no cost during the home energy assessment, and no-cost improvements to make your home more comfortable and energy efficient. When you apply for the program, you'll have the opportunity to select a program contractor, or we can assign one for you. If you're working with a NYSERDA Energy Advisor, you'll be able to select them and they will be able to follow the progress of your application and project. After submitting your application, the contractor will perform an energy assessment on your home and work with you to determine a scope of work. The contractor will then submit that scope to NYSERDA for approval and to determine the incentive amounts. After the project has been approved, the contractor will go over the approved work scope with the homeowner and get your approval before the work is installed. Guidance on how to complete the application can be found on NYSERDA's website, and residents can also contact the Regional Clean Energy Hub for assistance in completing the application. Additionally, residents can visit the New York Energy Advisor website, which helps New Yorkers determine what clean energy programs are available to them. After entering the answers to a few simple questions, the website produces a list of NYSERDA and utility programs available in the customer's area. Next slide, please. So now becoming an Empower Plus participating contractor is also simple. It's a simple 3-step process. First, the Empower Plus program manual. That will provide background, application information, and expectations for contractors. And contractors can get customized help by contacting one of our account managers. Second, you submit a participation agreement. And third, you'll complete an onboarding interview. That's it. You'll get approved and you can start working. Okay, thank you. Julie went over a whole bunch of the IRA funding and tax credits. This is a website that you can log on to as well to find out more information on those. I just want to mention some engagement with folks that we've done. We're going to continue to conduct stakeholder engagement sessions, but to date, we've conducted 21 of those sessions with relevant groups such as contractors, utilities, environmental justice groups, community-based organizations, retailers, product manufacturers, distributors, and members of the public. In terms of upcoming opportunities to engage, NYSERDA and the Department of Public Service are co-hosting a technical conference on Friday, September 20th, to respond to some feedback that we've gotten and work with stakeholder groups to identify opportunities to improve the Empower Plus program and its accessibility to low and moderate income households. The easiest way to sign up for the technical conference is by Googling DPS LMI Electrification Technical Conference. Our single family, multifamily, and retail programs continue to have standing recurring meetings and ad hoc one-on-one stakeholder engagement follow-ups where IRA topics are brought up on a targeted basis. And then later this fall, we are targeting the next phase of deployment of HERE with our retail point of sale appliance rebate, as Julie was mentioning earlier. And additional details about other programs will be available in the upcoming weeks. Next slide, please. So you can once again find the link to Empower Plus program here on this page, which will provide more detail on eligibility and connect you to the application. And additionally, you can visit the New York Energy Advisor site to get a customized list of energy-related assistance programs offered by New York State, including help paying utility bills, and receive special offers on heating assistance and more. And I think that's all for me. Turn it back over to you, Orlando.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fiore. This was amazing. We definitely need to have that information for NYSERDA. I hope that everyone has that information in their notes so how they can apply. It's about getting the benefits in their pockets. So now I will definitely be turning over our presentation of people to be recognized, which will be Chloe Andaluza. She is the legislative assistant for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Chloe serves in the area of energy policy. She is a new member of the family of Yvette Clarke, Yvette Clarke rep, Yvette Clarke in our area. And we just want to make sure that she has a warm welcome. Please welcome Chloe to the stage. Chloe, the floor is finally yours.
Thank you, Orlando. So I'll be passing it over to New York State Senator Kevin Parker now. State Senator Parker is the fourth most senior member of the New York State Senate and the current chairman of the Senate Energy and Telecommunications Committee. In 2002, when he was first elected state senator, he became the youngest serving member of the August body at the age of 35. He now has the distinction of being the most senior African-American senator and is well respected for his political prowess. As the first and only state representative of the 21st Senate District in Brooklyn, he is intimately familiar with the needs of his constituents in the diverse neighborhoods of Flatbush, East Flatbush, Kensington, Dimas Park, Midwood, Flatlands, Canarsie, Georgetown, Old Mill Basin, Marine Park, and Bergen Beach. So please take it away, Senator Parker, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chloe. I really appreciate it. Sorry to have you read that very long bio, but I'm happy to have opportunity to be here. Again, I'm State Senator Kevin Parker. I represent the 21st District. I'm chairman of the Energy and Telecommunications Committee, as well as the majority whip in the New York State Senate. And let me begin by thanking Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke for bringing us together, convening us again on this important topic. This is, I think, the second time we've done this in the last couple of years, and certainly an important conversation from a number of perspectives. Let me also just thank Julie Tai and Anthony Fiore from NYSERDA for their detailed presentations. I would say to you that, I have, programmatically, you have heard what you needed to hear. Excuse me. Programmatically, you've heard what you needed to hear. The sharp end of the sword as it relates to energy efficiency, as it relates to our conversion to a clean energy economy, as it relates to clean energy jobs, is NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. And I wanted to thank the president there, who I've worked with very closely. But you've heard a lot of the programmatic stuff that you needed to hear. I think the important message to get from that is no matter what you do in New York State, that there is a way to do it in a clean energy way. So if you're a homeowner, if you're a tenant, if you're a landlord, if you're a commercial building owner, if you're a commercial business, all of those things fall into some program that the state runs and probably connects with the federal government in terms of IRA funding. And you heard a lot of that, those funding mechanisms that Julie laid out that are coming specifically from the federal government. Let me just point out that there are a number of I deal with this every day, and I was getting a little bit of overload in terms of the number of programs. And so let me say that you can reach out to any of us if you need information, right? So if you're out there and you're looking and you're saying, all right, I want to do something. I want to make my home more energy efficient. I want to make my business more energy efficient, and you don't know where to start, you can always call one of us, right? So you can reach out to my office. I'm sure you can reach out to the Congresswoman's office, and one of us or our staffs can certainly point you in the right way. If you're in the state of New York, you can always reach out to NYSERDA. I would tell you to begin with looking at their website. It has a host of information on it, and will plug you into both programs, but also reliable vendors that they essentially have approved to do things like energy audits and the like. So those are good places to begin to understand where to begin this journey. But it's certainly something that we need to do, and we have begun on the state level operating in terms of the CLCPA. That's the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, right? And the CLCPA was literally, created in order to create a set of goals. And we literally in the state of New York have the most ambitious goals in the entire country as it relates to getting to net zero by 2050, right? And there's some intermediate goals there, but really the 2050 goal is the kind of main goal that we're all trying to work towards. And so certainly I want to thank the Congresswoman again and other members of the congressional delegation for passing the IRA and putting so much resources and funding into it, because certainly those resources are going to take us a long way in terms of reaching our 2050 goal of being, carbon zero, net zero in terms of carbon emissions. And so we'll always remember that to use less energy, we're going to use more electricity, right? Sounds, a little like an oxymoron, but that's what it is, right? We're going to use less energy by using more electricity. So as we kind of clean up the grid and electrify the different things that we do in our homes and our businesses, that's the challenge, right? And those challenges today, we primarily talked about them from what I think about as a retail perspective. That is looking at programs that are available from the federal government to individuals and to businesses and organizations, as well as looking at things that programs that the state has. And I think, like, again, in combination, they provide a significant amount of resources to, in fact, get to to our goals and to your individual goals in terms of what you like to see in your home. However, I think that most of what we're doing on the state level is really looking at it from a utility scale. And part of a lot of what I've done and operating with NYSERDA and President Harris, that's President Harris at NYSERDA, looking at how we can create utility scale solutions for our clean energy conversion, right? And so offshore wind, looking at large solar projects, looking at things like heat capture, exploring hydrogen and its potential uses in certain niche markets, and we have all been kind of the primary kind of focus, I guess, of my committee and the work of NYSERDA. But in addition to that, we have a number of retail programs, and I think um, the combination of some of these utility scale solutions and some of the programs that are available on the retail level together will kind of get us to a place where we can reach our goals. Um, there's two things I kind of want to mention that are also important that weren't covered quite um, in detail here. One is weatherization. That a large part of what we have to do, we are, New York is an old state. We look good, but we're an old state with old buildings, and our buildings really need to be retrofitted. And so weatherization, changing windows, insulating buildings is going to be a big part of it, of keeping cool air in the summer in and warm air in the winter in the buildings is going to be a big part of it, right? And the second part is demand response, right? And demand response really talks about knowing the best times and the best ways to use electricity and use power generally, right? So sometimes using outlets that you can turn off, right? Making sure that you're not using lights all the time, using timers on things like lights and your heater, so that you're not like heating your house when people are, or keeping it cool when no one's in the home, right? Doing things like washing dishes and washing clothes and drying clothes at night instead of during peak hours during the day, right? All those things kind of fall into this bucket of demand response of consumers just knowing the best times and ways to use energy, as well as converting to energy efficient appliances and light bulbs and the such. So there's lots of work that needs to be done. There's lots of information though that's out there on it, and I just want to encourage people to join us in this journey. Reach out to the resources that are being provided today. Again, thank you, Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, for your leadership, for your guidance, for your advocacy on behalf of our community, our great state, and our great nation. And thanks to Orlando and Chloe, for their hard work on bringing us together. And look forward to our continuing work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Parker. And now passing it over to Assemblywoman Latrice Walker. Latrice M. Walker has been serving people her entire adult life. Walker brings to the New York State Assembly a passion and fortitude reminiscent of the streets of Brownsville, Brooklyn, where she was born and raised. Assemblywoman Walker is the chair of the Assembly's Election Law Committee, and she's a member of the Housing, Judiciary Codes, and Coveted Ways and Means Committees. She's a leading voice on voting rights, having been the Assembly sponsor of the landmark John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act of New York, which was signed into law 2 years ago. She's also a champion of criminal justice reform, environmental justice, affordable housing, tenants' rights, and a host of other issues that are important to New Yorkers. So please, let's hand it over to Assemblywoman Walker.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Chloe and Orlando, I just want you to know that you don't own the patent on having an amazing boss. I am president of the alumni of Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke. It has been a pleasure to follow her leadership on energy efficiency and changing laws across the country and by extension in the state of New York with my work, working alongside State Senator Kevin Parker when I was initially elected as the chair of the Renewable Energy Subcommittee on the Energy Committee. And so environmental justice has been a part of my life's work, beginning my legal career at Pace Law School, studying environmental law and watching all of the changes that were happening in my community growing up in public housing. We couldn't understand why our elevators were always broken. And it wasn't until my conversations with Senator Parker and his role as chair of the Energy Committee that we recognized that communities like Brownsville and other parts of central Brooklyn were sort of in brownout stages. And the load based on the lifestyles of so many people in central Brooklyn was pulling so heavily on the Brownsville substation that Con Edison would have to turn down the power in many of our communities, which prevented the elevators from from working. Sorry. And it had gotten so bad once that at Brookdale Hospital, a local hospital where we all share, they had to almost evacuate the hospital because when the load was reduced so low, the chillers no longer worked in the building. And so when we think about energy policy, many times it's almost as if it's, 10,000 feet in the air. But it really does affect each in our everyday lives, particularly as it relates to high incidences of asthma and other lung-related illnesses within our communities. We're watching that so many of our seniors even are relying on things for their healthcare lifeline, like ventilators. And so we know just how essential good and smart energy policy is to our community. Then there's inflation, right? And so we're looking at rising rent and everything in between, including milk and eggs. And if you're in my household, my daughter has an affinity towards bacon. And sometimes I'm in the supermarket and I'm like, I can't believe this. And so we know that we are very grateful to the Congresswoman and her colleagues for the Inflation Reduction Act, because it became time and it was important for our federal representatives to help us out as it relates to being low income, representing low income communities, and finding it difficult to make decisions sometimes as it relates to buying food or paying those energy costs for essential services. And so I wanted to, of course, just acknowledge our amazing partners and my colleagues here in government who are on this particular panel. So let's get into it. The Inflation Reduction Act, which was signed by President Biden just over 2 years ago, seeks to reduce the federal deficit, lower prescription drug prices, and promote clean energy, among other things. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to focus on the benefits for New York homeowners and low-income families who should have a shared goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, lowering the cost of clean energy technology, and securing the future of our planet. In case anyone still seeks or needs advice, the signs of climate change are all around us. Sea levels are rising, storms, flooding, and wafting smoke from wildfires are more frequent. The city and state have been hit by higher temperatures, 100-year storms, and energy and weather situations that we have never seen in years, which we have seen our governor has had to call a state of an emergency, particularly as it relates to storms, earthquakes, etc., here in the state of New York. We've also been hit by 5 heat waves this year alone. By comparison, there was only 1 heat wave in the city last year, defined as a period of 3 consecutive days with temperatures of at least 90 degrees. The urgent need for a nationwide commitment to clean energy policies can also be seen in our health outcomes, particularly in communities of color, which generally have the highest rates of asthma. The dependence on fossil fuels and increased air pollution, specifically from motor vehicle emissions, only makes problems worse. The data bears that out. Brownsville, which is nearly 80% Black, has historically been and had the highest rates of asthma in the state of New York. But here is how the Inflation Reduction Act can help. The IRA provides $57 billion to help families in disadvantaged neighborhoods to electrify their homes. This includes electrifying how people cook, dry their clothes, heat their homes, and power their vehicles. Tax rebates are available to New Yorkers to purchase electric heat pumps, electric vehicles, and solar panels, which in the long run can save households thousands of dollars each year. One of the things that we saw here in the Brownsville and Eastern York community was a Solarize Brownsville initiative, where we received tax credits in order for families in low-income communities to put solar panels on the roofs of their homes. I always remember the excitement of a homeowner who came in with a energy bill with $0. And there was also a church that had that. And they couldn't believe it. They thought it was an error and came here to try to fix the error because, what's up with this $0 energy bill? And it really had a lot to do with the tax incentives and rebates that were provided, but there was still more work to be done. And we're glad and grateful for the Inflation Reduction Act. The tax rebates, defined as upfront discounts or money returned to customers at the point of sale, are available for income eligible New Yorkers and homeowners, of course, as we heard, through the Empower Plus program. Similar rebates for the homeowners, for the owners of multifamily buildings, will become available very, very soon. New York homeowners are eligible for IRA tax credits to make their homes more energy efficient, including renovations or the installation of heating and cooling systems. It is important to note that the tax credits are not upfront discounts. Tax credits can either reduce the amount of tax that you owe or increase your refund. Let me give you an example without getting too far into the weeds. The Inflation Reduction Act boosted the energy efficient home improvement credit, which allows homeowners to claim 30% of the costs associated with eligible energy improvements. This is an increase from 10% before the IRA went into effect. Tax credits are available for the installation of energy efficient windows, electrical panel upgrades, heat pump and water heaters, and so much more. We also know that I represent over 29 NYCHA developments. And we're also watching as NYCHA, as we know, which have had a waffling infrastructure for many, many years, take advantage of many of these new initiatives. It is worth noting that some of the federal tax credits can be combined with similar state income tax credits already on the books. I know some of this can be overwhelming for homeowners to navigate, but there is help. Of course, as was already mentioned, please go to the website for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, which is on the screen. They can connect you to a free home assessment that will help identify energy inefficiencies in your home so that you can best decide how to address them. They can also detail how the IRA can benefit your particular home. Lastly, I wanted to just mention some of the things that we may be able to do together in the state. With respect to many of the tax credits that we have received or we have seen, most of those tax credits were sort of energy side, big business benefit for consumers. So we didn't necessarily feel it. But now there is an opportunity in the state of New York through Assembly Bill A6739B. And this particular legislation will strengthen New York's residential solar tax credit and make it refundable for low-income families. Refundability is the key for ensuring that low-income folks and seniors are able to benefit from all of the programs that we have talked about and access affordable solar power. And so while it's always great to rest on the laurels of success, of course, there are still so much more that we can work together to build on. Thank you for your attention. I am Assemblymember Latrice Walker. And on the final slide, please see the contact information for my office. Stay safe and remember, the earth is all we have. There is no planet B. And there's a mantra with respect to the environment, which states that we did not inherit the planet from our ancestors. We are borrowing it from our children. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Walker. That was super helpful insight and a lot of personal examples you gave there, which really helps the picture of paint the picture of importance here. Now we'd like to pass it on to our final speaker before heading into Q&A, Councilwoman Sandy Nurse. Councilmember Nurse represents the 37th Council District, which includes neighborhoods of Bushwick, Brownsville, Cypress Hills, City Line, and East New York. She's the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, currently serves as the chair on the Committee of Criminal Justice, and was formerly chair on the Committee of Sanitation and Solid Waste Management. Councilmember Nurse began her term in 2022 after running a progressive left insurgent campaign to unseat an incumbent, and she had one of the largest coalitions of the 2021 campaign city council races, inclusive of grassroots groups and labor. Ms. Nurse's priorities are improving the health and well-being of the communities she represents. She's focused on housing for all, high-quality public education, increasing public safety, and fighting for a livable, sustainable, and resilient New York City. So thank you, and we're looking forward to seeing your presentation, Ms. Nurse.
Hi, good evening. Let me know if you can hear me. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, for putting this together and inviting me to the second Energy Roundtable. I'm really happy to be here, and I think this is such an important topic. It's the topic of our time, how we're going to set up not only our country, but our city to be one that we can all thrive in and raise families in and have a future in over the next 25, 30 years. I don't have a presentation. I'm going to keep this pretty short because there is so much information that has already been provided. I don't even know how anybody is like fully cramming all of this into the head. There's a lot of opportunity, and that's a good problem to have. I guess what I will talk lightly about is some of the work that we're doing in the city and in the city council to continue to knock down barriers for not only the city to be on track, but for development, for small businesses, for everybody in New York City to play their part in helping us achieve that future that we are looking for. And so some of the work that we've been doing here in the city council is really focused on getting the city to live up to its end of the bargain, investing in our own municipal electric fleet, getting our city fleet to be electrified. There's been so much work already done. We have some of our garbage trucks are EV trucks. Some of our, a lot of our city cars are already moving in that direction. There's been legislation passed to pilot more solar canopies and parking lots and get more EV stations throughout city-owned lots. I know that a lot of what businesses can access and residents can access is purchasing EV vehicles and getting those tax credits, but we also need to do a lot of work to get the city infrastructure ready to be able to make use of that. What good is having an EV car if you don't have any place to plug it in? What good is an EV car if you don't have a place where in your neighborhood where you can go and get charged up? So we do need to pave the way here for more infrastructure that allows us to fully take advantage of all of these things that you would get a tax credit for. One of the other things we're focused on in terms of how do we get the city to meet the moment is renewable energy. Right now we have a bill moving forward, and I'm very, very, very optimistic that we are going to move it sooner rather than later, but to get the city to achieve installation of 150 megawatts of renewable energy through solar by 2035. And that is something that is timely, it's needed. That means there's going to be contracts out there for this type of work, ideally going to contractors with prevailing wage, but that will be work that is going to be opening up, and we'd really like to see a lot of the small businesses be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's some of the stuff we're working on at the city council level. I think where most of the city council members, what we really try to do is help people apply for these things, help people understand what's available. spend a lot of time doing outreach and education so that folks understand that these are things that they should be preparing to access. And then in terms of small businesses, I know that was something that they asked me to speak on. I'm not fully the small business guru, but as someone who's worked in construction and as a carpenter, someone who taught my own classes and had my own kind of independent contracting company, it was really important for me. The kind of benefits that are available now would have been really great for me when I was starting out in construction. So getting tax credits to get an electric vehicle for my business, that would have been great to get $2,000 rebate on something like that. Being able to work with our customers to help them understand the solar credit, tax credits they could get for solar installation or the geothermal heat pumps. Those are things that would have been really, really helpful. And now they're available for not only small businesses to have in their actual physical locations, but also for folks doing construction and contracting work. Being able to communicate those benefits to your customers is a really ideal place. So I'll stop there only because there's been so much said, and I know we want to get to the Q&A, but again, I really thank the Congresswoman for hosting this, for all of the work that everyone is doing at all levels of government to help us really achieve that future we want to achieve. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Member. Now I think we're going to head into the Q&A portion of the evening, and we'll invite all of our presenters back up onto the stage so we can kind of throw some questions around to see who might be best able to answer each. I know we received a lot of questions as people RSVP'd for the event and a couple in the chat, and we'll try to make sure we get to everything as we can before we run out of time. So I think Orlando will kick us off once he joins. There we go. Sorry, Orlando, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Chloe, for amazing work. So we're going to put out a general question for everyone that would want to respond. The first question that we're going to ask is, how can we help homeowners, landlords, and tenants understand and access the benefits available through the Empower Plus program and the IRA program?
Well, I can start if that's okay, specifically with respect to the Empower Plus program. But before I do that, I did just also want to thank Senator Parker, Assemblymember Walker, and Councilmember Nurse. All great information. And thank you all for your support of NYSERDA and the work we're trying to do. Really appreciate it. So as I mentioned earlier, the easiest way to get information is to go to our website. And if after going through the website, you need more assistance or just have additional questions, you can call us and we'll assign an energy advisor to you to help you walk through any questions that you have, help you find additional resources, help you connect with a contractor to first, start the process by doing an energy assessment of your home or residence, and that's really the first step. So please visit our website, give us a call. We will help you.
Can I add to that? I think we want all of you who are participating, you're obviously interested, you're active, you came here. We want you to tell your friends about it, or you want to tell your family about it. There's a lot of federal money on the table right now, and New York loves to bring home the federal money. So we want to take advantage of that so that you can be getting more energy efficient appliances and weatherizing your home, as the senator pointed out. And there's a lot of money that can help make that happen, that can help you save money on your electric bill. So that's why we put together a guide to help provide people with the information about what's out there. But really, Anthony's right. They have the most up-to-date information because NYSERDA is the one that's implementing this program. So please help us get the word out by sharing the information and the links that were made available today so that people can see what's out there and available for them.
Does anyone else have to chime in? Okay, so we're going to move on to the second question, and it's open to anyone that wants to answer. Are there resources available for the faith-based institutions like grants for housing, houses of worship to install solar panels and HVAC systems? I would like to present that to Senator Parker and our Assemblywoman Latrice Walker.
Don't be picking on me and Latrice. So, so the answer is yes. And particularly if they have 501c3s. The state also has an Office of Faith-Based Initiatives that also has resources that houses of worship can use. But there are many programs that, again, Anthony Fiore may have a better sense of like the specific programs, but I know there are programs that can be accessed by churches and by nonprofits, and many of the churches have nonprofits attached to them that will allow them to do that work.
Mr. Fiore, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There are programs. I would say, start with our Flex Tech program. They'll perform studies first to understand, what is available, what the opportunities for those types of facilities are. In some instances, there's a cost share for that, but it's highly discounted. So I think that's the first place to take advantage of and see what opportunities they have.
Great.
And I'll also say that there are a couple of local nonprofit groups that many of the churches and some of the building owners have worked with. One of them being an organization called Block Power. Block Power has the ability to also come out and do a number of the energy audits that were discussed. They also have initiatives with respect to upgrading your HVAC system for no money. I see $0. And they can be contacted, I know, by email. If you reach out to them, I am looking here at press@blockpower.io. And I can also put the information, of course, in the chat so that one of the leaders of this presentation can share it more widely.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I would just add one thing, is that one really important and unique thing that Congress did with the Inflation Reduction Act was that they allow something called direct pay, which makes nonprofits and houses of worship eligible for various funding that normally would just be a tax credit that you can't get if you're a nonprofit, you're not paying taxes, so tax credits don't help you. So they created a program that allows that direct pay, that allows nonprofits, including houses of worship and local governments, to be able to access some funds to take advantage of that. So thank you, Congress.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to the third question, and then Chloe's going to take on the next three. So
before you do that, I did see that there's a telephone number, 718-924-2873, 718-924-2873. And I do know that they have a number of city, state, and federal initiatives that they are able to work with homeowners, property owners, churches, and other multiple family building owners as well. Thank you. Sorry about that, Orlando.
No problem. Could you put that in our chat? And I'm going to make sure to circulate that on our social media as well, because there are people watching right now. So I'm going to go on to the third question, and it's open to everyone. What are the most beneficial programs to individual homeowners? So it's open to everyone. We could start with Mr.
Well,
Fiore.
Orlando, I'm going to jump in here because there was a whole litany of benefits in the IRA that will transform any homeowner's life. I think that what's important is that folks take stock of what their current use of energy is, and if they're in the market for purchasing appliances in particular, there's no reason that they wouldn't look for an energy efficient uh, appliance when they can get a rebate or a tax credit for it. So we want to get this out as wide as possible because the benefits are so numerous in the IRA. I've been just trying to unpack it for our community so that they could go ahead and access it. Each and every day, someone somewhere in the 9th district is buying an appliance. They should have this information.
I think that's a great one. Is anyone else wants to chime in? And
Yeah.
Let me just say that it's difficult to say that like this is not a one size fits all type situation, right? And so it really depends on what your particular circumstance, is. And so I think I would tell you this, and I'm hoping Anthony Fiore agrees with me that you actually should begin with an energy audit. And begin there if you're an individual homeowner. I've actually had this done myself. And so I'm not just the senator, but I'm also a client. And I actually worked through a local nonprofit neighborhood housing service of Brooklyn to get an audit done and to get my home insulated and retrofitted. And so I would begin there so that you then can understand, as you heard the Congresswoman say, kind of what your energy needs are, right? What your current output is. What I hear is that the average home in the United States actually has the equivalent of an open window in terms of cracks and crevices and holes, in places. And so by sealing the home up and making it airtight, you actually save energy in that way. So that's the way I would tell you just to begin.
And there's funding available for that weatherization work that the senator was just describing.
Yeah, I would just echo. First of all, I think maybe Senator Parker, you could work for NYSERDA. You've got it all down. It's not a one size fits all. But I will say for like low and moderate income, the Empower Plus program is a place to start. We have our Flex Tech program that can help with the energy audits. We have programs for audits that are free to 1 to 4 family homes. For other homes, the Clean Heat program run by the utilities is another program to look at. So start with the audit. We get assistance from NYSERDA for that, and look to our Empower Plus program for low and moderate incomes and Clean Heat for other folks. So, thanks.
So now, Chloe, the floor is yours. You're going to ask that.
Yeah. So this next question, I think the Congresswoman, you sort of touched on it, and I think all of our speakers might be able to address this at a different level. But are we able to assess the impact of the IRA thus far?
So we know that there's been, I had a map in my presentation that showed like all the projects in New York that had been funded, and that's just for like the businessy ones. It's not, and the government ones. It's not going to be for all the individuals. But obviously, we know this year alone, 150,000 people you got tax credits for electric vehicles because of the Inflation Reduction Act in the country, and we know that there's billions and billions of dollars that are coming out the door to help that. So I don't know that I have specific like how much greenhouse gas emissions have been reduced, how much there's an improvement in air quality, but there has been a massive implication already in just the 2 years since this law has been adopted by the president and passed by Congress. So it has been hugely beneficial in deploying people, putting them to work, putting up clean energy, and deploying these energy efficient programs to make our communities better, greener, and more healthy. Big success, much more money to come. So don't leave the money on the table. I'm going to say that again and again. Take the free money.
Money is green, and everybody needs that money. The rent is high. Chloe, you're the next question.
Yeah, it's truly an investment in our future. And if everyone does their part, we will, I think, go a long way to meeting that 2050 goal. And the idea is that our children and grandchildren inherit a much greener country than the one we've inherited. That, to the extent that we can build out resilience to the storms and the fires and the ways in which climate change has impacted us already, we're in a position to do that. So here's a way for everyone to do their part. And it's of great benefit not only to you, but to future generations. So that's how I would characterize what this investment is. Yes, it's money in your pocket, but it's also an investment in our infrastructure.
Mhm.
I yield back.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And it kind of looks like we're nearing the end of our allotted time. So I just wanted to thank you all again and give any of you the chance to give a closing thought or two if you had. And if not, I think the Congresswoman's office has some remarks on behalf of the Congresswoman, but I just wanted to give you the chance to say anything in case you didn't get to earlier.
One thing I would just mention is that I know someone had asked about the links for We Act and for Rewiring America. So we did, Matt from LCV did drop those links into the comments section if people are looking for that as a way to get more information. And I'm sure that we can get everyone the link to the NYSERDA page. And thank you.
I'll just add my thanks to the rest of the folks on this panel. Your support and for all this work is incredibly important. And these discussions are important to having the public understand what is available to them and how they can take advantage of these opportunities. So do appreciate it. Always happy to participate. And look at our website or call us 866 NYSERDA.
And let me just, add my voice to those who are thanking the Congresswoman for convening us and always being at the forefront of leadership on the important issues in our community, particularly this one. And thank, the folks at the League of Conservation Voters as well as NYSERDA. And my partner in government, Latrice Walker. We work on a lot of things together, and certainly these issues have been one of the ones that we've been very focused on. So great to be involved and invited, and looking forward to our continue both conversations and work around these important issues.
Well, with that, I want to thank once again each of our speakers tonight for lending us their time and their expertise. And while the IRA made essential investments in our energy systems, we cannot forget that putting in the work to fill the gaps and ensure every New Yorker receives the benefits and resources they are entitled to. And while many of the benefits and the programs are now available, other new initiatives are just beginning to get started. So it is important that we keep having these conversations and spreading the word. The road ahead remains crucial as our state and city continue to put together the plans to dictate where and how they take advantage of these new programs. And on behalf of Congresswoman Clarke and her entire office, we stand ready to make sure to fulfill the benefits of this law and flow to the communities it was intended to. Like the Congresswoman mentioned earlier, her office will be sharing a flyer with a lot of the helpful links and resources many of the speakers presented today. And as all of the speakers mentioned, all of their offices are available for further questions. We didn't get to a lot of the questions that were submitted, unfortunately, but I think we will all be on standby to answer those for you. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.
everyone. Thank you.
Right now.